The man walked about anxiously, bound to see the great man in the room. Yet time flew by and he had been waiting outside for hours. Fu Feiyang angrily snorted coldly. This Qin Xiao is really a great face. He stood up straight with his back against the wall. How long did this Qin Xiao make him wait here? A teenager opens the door and beckons for another cup of sour plum soup. Fu Feiyang angry jumping feet. Your grandma is the waiter. But not the waiter standing here for what? He was incoherent at the rebuttal, and it so happened that someone from the rear arrived in a hurry to try to persuade him to fight. Apparently he looked back menacingly, angrily telling them to get out of his sight. They rushed to the fight but were scolded by surprise, and looked a bit incredulous for a moment. But the teenager in front of him wasn't scared at all. Do you think you can see Qin Xiao just by standing outside the door? We've seen a lot of thugs like you, playing ball and thinking you can get into the Qin family. Qin Xiao, who was being talked about in the private room, was still happily playing tennis. The subordinate hurriedly walked behind Qin Xiao, who was actually staring curiously at Fu Jiu's boozing mineral water. The subordinate couldn't wait and quietly reported to Qin Xiao about what happened outside the private room. Qin Mo looked at his subordinates indifferently, indicating that he knew what was going on outside and that no one needed to care. Fu Jiu happily waved his hand to him to let Mo rest. He actually went to teach his good friend to serve the ball. So 30 minutes later, the tennis ball fell to the ground with the motion of the initiator. Yao Yao was actually a bit worried and hastily reminded Fu Jiu to be careful with the tennis ball being smashed into the. Fu Jiu touched his head sheepishly, saying that his strong body had nothing to do with it. Qin Mo's gaze was gloomy from the side. Fu Jiu was simply overdoing it by flirting with all kinds of girls everywhere he went. So with a cold snort, he instructed his subordinates to call them all back and not to play in the. The subordinate had to reluctantly walk forward and ask Fu Jiu softly if he was busy. He looks like the lady is hot. Beginners play with a lot of energy. Are they going to take a rest? Fu Jiu suddenly felt physically and mentally exhausted, intending to go to rest. At that moment Qin Mo looked at Fu Jiu, who was walking towards him, and complimented her on her very good notebook. However, she had to thank Qin Mo. After all, he was the one who generously sponsored the top accessories, so she would be able to happily play Ben in the future. He looked at the two suspiciously. You seem to be on good terms. How did you become familiar with each other? I didn't realize that she and Fu Jiu were at the same table. He takes care of people, so they're on good terms. Qin Mo, however, was a bit curious. It seemed that his high school life was quite colorful. Do you have so much time after school that you're free to flirt with girls without studying? Fu Jiu panicked and waved his hand. Yao Yao was the little teacher who tutored him in physics. How could she be flirting with a girl? So you're bothering your teammates with this kind of thing. Is everyone as busy as you are? Apparently Yao Yao wanted to explain, but after seeing Qin Xiao's cold expression, she didn't dare to explain again for a moment. But what Qin Mo said is not unreasonable, or pay him to help himself to a back door. I didn't expect Qin Mo to ask for 10 million, so Fu Jiu instantly bowed his head. Or hire a tutor. He gazed at someone who was downcast. I'll tutor you in physics from now on. The two of them were shocked. Qin Mo was a busy man who had a lot of work to do. Sure enough, Fu Jiu was a bit puzzled. Mo is not our rebuttal. You should normally be busier, but he still has time to tutor this scum, so he'll be the one to do the embarrassing stuff from now on. Fu Jiu was a little shy but more angry. It turned out that he was actually ashamed of himself. Qin Mo coldly reminded him that if he didn't want to participate in the rookie competition, he could just say so. Obviously Fu Jiu was a little anxious. That first said that when teaching him, you cannot say that he has a low IQ. But Qin Mo did not think. You cannot learn physics. IQ, such things you still have. Fu Jiu felt mercilessly attacked. Qin Mo did not start counseling even personal attacks on him. At this time Fu Jiu wanted to change his clothes secretly, and now was just the perfect opportunity to do so. He stole a glance at Qin Mo, who was answering the phone, and it was obvious that the other party did not notice his gaze. I didn't expect Qin Mo to be manly, with a strong upper body that suggests a man must work out every day. Fu Jiu quietly lifted up his clothes, always feeling that it would be better to tease him less in the future. The black limousine parked slowly at the gate, waiting to take its owner home. Qin Mo sat in the back seat and suddenly ordered to send Miss Shua home first, which scared the driver. So the black limousine started slowly, not expecting to be blocked in the middle of the intersection. Yo-Yo was embarrassed and wanted to get out of the car, stating that she was not far from home and could walk home. Fu Jiu saw her get out of the car and then suddenly popped up to ask if she really wasn't far from home. She reassured Fu Jiu that she would practice the technique she had learned when she got home. She suddenly thought of something, so she turned her head to look at Qin Mo, who was resting his eyes with his eyes closed. That's why I quietly reminded Yo-Yo, don't be nervous, combine work and rest. With me as the captain, you won't lose. Yo-Yo nodded her head adorably, indicating that she would definitely not let the captain down. Fujio sat in the car as if his body was all light, shining to every woman on the road. Qin Mo looked at him with dissatisfaction. Didn't he know that he was exuding glamour all over the place? Apparently he doesn't know and is still waving his hand pleasantly at Yo-Yo. At this time, Qin Mo informed the driver in front of him that tonight's dinner party was cancelled and he would go back to his home directly. Fujio pointed to himself suspiciously, not expecting that he would want him to go back with him as well. But the president's home is estimated to have hundreds of thousands of pieces of gaming equipment, so maybe he'll be able to take a few. The driver's mouth was wide open in surprise that the young master was taking someone other than his friend's home. So without waiting for him to finish his thoughts, he drove in earnest to the interior of the young master's house. Fujio get off the car suddenly grew his mouth. The expression actually some cannot stop the consternation. I didn't expect Qin Mo's home to be so luxurious. It's true that he's a rich man in every sense of the word. He's gonna see a whole platoon of maids welcoming him. But there was only one person who came to greet them and was greeting Qin Mo politely. He introduced to Auntie Zhang. This is Fujio's younger brother. He will often come to you to watch the arrangement. Auntie Zhang was a bit shocked. Do the master and madam know what the young master is singing? But as she looked ahead at Fujio, she didn't realize that this young man was so handsome. At this point he was suddenly hammered head. You even buy people's aunts to tease. Fujio unwillingly defended to him that he was just saying hello to Auntie Zhang. I didn't expect Qin Mo to deny him directly, saying that it's not good enough to greet him and hurry in. Fujio dissatisfied pouting mouth. Would also have to care about the sea is your family open? Qin Mo inquired him in an irritated manner. Are you thinking that I am too strict in controlling you or not? Sure enough, Fujio has long been unconvinced. Really think he is my brother to control so broadly. So Qin Mo told him to sit down. They needed to talk about man-to-man topics. Fujio is not a boy himself. Isn't it inappropriate to talk about men's topics? Obviously Qin Mo didn't know. He pointed to the sofa on the side and told Fujio to hurry up and sit there. I just saw his gaze a bit serious. Are you eager to fall in love now? Fujio was confused. Even if he was in love, he was a woman dressed as a man and couldn't make it public. But Qin Mo was still voicing his opinion that he wasn't against early love, but he should study hard now. In the future, be more reserved when you see a girl, but at least mention the bottom grade. Fujio immediately doubled the blow. On what grounds to say that he was the bottom one? So he looked at the man in front of him, looking disgruntled and contemplating something. He quickly moved forward and slapped one hand on Qin Mo's shoulder. Let's talk about something else, like what a good brother looks like. Qin Mo watched him with interest. I'm not good enough as a brother. At this point Fujio took a few steps back, stating that it would be perfect if it was that much more forgiving. Qin Mo looked at the ungenerous paw. After all, he felt he had been quite forgiving. I didn't expect Fujio to pat him on the shoulder. His own relationship with Desert Brother is very good to be like this. Qin Mo couldn't help but slap his paws away. But there were quite a few people who were close to him, such as Miss Shui. He turned his head away instantly. Those words did seem a bit jealous, so instead of bringing it up, he asked Fujio rhetorically if he was hungry for dinner. But Fujio has long been hungry, said he wanted to eat spicy hot pot tripe beef, a lot of vegetables. At this time Qin Mo was going to change his clothes, so he asked if he needed to change into a set of home clothes, but he waved his hand hastily. Desert's clothes were so big, he definitely wouldn't fit in them. He saw that Qin Mo disliked him, but in his heart he was very unconvinced. His height is not short. Of course he couldn't say it. After all, Qin Mo didn't know he was female, so Qin Mo said he was going to change his clothes and would be back in a while. He waited until Qin Mo had left before he felt relaxed. There were a lot of books on the shelves, but not even a novel to pass the time. Social engineering principles of criminal psychology. What a strange hobby. This guy can't have sensed something wrong from my tactics, can he? At this time there was a ragdoll cat below, gazing proudly at Fujio, so he crouched down and waved the kitten over to him to pet him. I didn't expect the kitten to walk away with its head held high. Fujio angrily stretched out his hand. If you don't come over I'll shave off all your hairs. The kitten was instantly startled and its fur exploded. It angrily stretched out its claws and gave him a direct and vicious clawing, so he quickly ran away, leaving Fujio sitting on his arse on the ground. Qin Mo, who had watched the whole journey, smiled gently. What did you do to him? He doesn't usually do that with boys. So he reached out and stroked the kitten's fur. At the same time, he picked it up, and the kitten was incredibly well behaved in his arms. He's not sure. He probably thought he was too handsome the first time we met. Fu Jiao, on the other hand, said that the kitten was so spirited that he didn't expect it to be a small male cat. He crept forward, and a small male cat turned out to be called Princess. At this time Qin Mo saw sighed. How interested in my book. He lifted both of the princess's paws. Is this book any good? Fu Jiao had to pick up the criminal psychology book beside him. No wonder Desert could dig up my clues so quickly. I should have known better than to jump out of my skin. Qin Mo's gaze was a little probing. Why was this person's skin so thick? As expected of someone with a thick skin, she looked at him with bright eyes. So he gave Fu Jiao a brain crash. Extracurricular books will be read later to eat first. Fu Jiao collapsed and shouted. The old pat on the head image does not matter what to do if you do not grow taller. He expressed his curiosity to know what the higher power actually did on a regular basis. Qin Mo also lived up to his name and answered straightforwardly to make money. Fu Jiao was caught off guard by the retort, and what he said did not seem unreasonable. At this time Qin Mo rubbed his head, inquiring so much beware I'll stew you in the hot pot. But if he talks to girls like that, he'll never get a girlfriend. Qin Mo was a little stunned for a moment and casually laughed lightly. He suddenly approached Fu Jiao, exuding glamour that he didn't need to chase after him at all. This man is incredibly confident that women will come to him because he's handsome. After all, if a rich man is handsome and has a good body, even if he has a bad character, there are still women who will fall for him. But eating people is the shortest thing to do. For the sake of the hot pot, I won't bother with him. Fu Jiao sat in his position and wailed. Where are the big dishes in front of himself? I did not expect Qin Mo was very cold. I so flunked, brother. Of course, I eat let you look at the. It's true that a man's heart is like a needle in the bottom of the sea. Fu Jiao covered his face beside him helplessly. At this time he picked up a chopstick of meat and handed it to Fu Jiao in a showy manner. Fu Jiao patted his stomach, indicating that he had long been hungry in front of his back. So Qin Mo analyzed it for him. You only use a small portion of your time to play with me, and the rest of your time is teaching others. Qin Mo looked at him full of concern, and immediately felt incredibly angry. How dare you? Aren't you afraid I'll cook you in a pot? After all, you're still trying not to study for early love, so you'll never get to eat this meat. Fu Jiao was just about to open his mouth to retort when he saw the meat pass to his mouth. So after he opened his mouth to eat, Qin Mo's voice rang out. What is not of the future still early love? His eyes were deep, but there was something warningly threatening about them. Auntie Zhang covered her mouth in shock. The young master told the lady at the age of 8 that there were a lot of germs in her saliva. The young master who didn't want his mother's used chopsticks when he was a child and wanted to eat by himself surprisingly. Before she could finish her thought, the young master had already asked for another set of dishes. Fu Jiao looked at the hot pot in front of him. It was bubbling away. The first young man in Jiangqing cooks hot pot at home, but it's so different and delicious. I waited until he was full and satisfied and burped. Suddenly remembering something, he began to thank Qin Mo, indicating that he should almost go home as well. I didn't expect Qin Mo to remind him that the physics book was ready and the tuition would start today. This action scared Fu Jiao back and forth. So rushed to learn the effect will not be good. But he directly picked up Fu Jiao's collar. Soon to be the monthly examination is not so rushed how to pass. Qin Mo threw the pen onto the table, imploring him to hurry up and lift his pen to write his homework, only to see Fu Jiao sadly picked up the pen, resignedly opened the textbook to write homework. He rubbed his forehead with a helpless look on his face, stating that he didn't understand any of these assignments anywhere. Qin Mo's face is getting more and more gloomy. You can't do anything anywhere and you're still quite proud of yourself. He had to learn it from scratch and understand the formula first to write it down. As he carefully went through the exercises, he realized that there was something wrong here, and that he should first work out the other. This guy is so thorough. I can actually understand him. That's when he suddenly realized something was wrong. What was he looking at? He'd just said how he'd calculated it. Qin Mo's mobile phone, however, suddenly rang, so he had to interrupt his lecture to pick up the phone. Sure enough, it's an in-company thing, and he says he's already confirmed it in the meeting. I didn't expect him to be free to come out and guide Fu Jiao on the questions while he was on the phone. He picked up his mobile phone and walked out to explain that he would help my brother with his tuition again, and went on to talk about the problem he had just had. The opposite side of the phone froze. When did Mr. Qin have a younger brother? The man queried his colleague about how he didn't know what year that person had her second child. Although Qin Mo was angry but did not explain, Fu Jiao on the side has long been overjoyed. he suddenly felt that something was wrong, so he hurriedly began to work on the problem in earnest. Shin Mo secretly sighed in relief, but his eyes did not leave Fu Jiu's back. Suddenly he stretched out his hand and pointed to the book. This question was the second time Fu Jiu made a mistake, but he did not show any impatience, and leaned over slightly to tell him that he should use another formula. There's some urgency on the other side of the phone. They want to meet Mr. Qin for dinner to discuss things, but Shin Mo decisively refused, stating that he had other reservations for tonight, leaving them to eat on their own. Fu Jiu lifted his little head, his gaze looking at his mentor Qin Mo with appreciation. I didn't expect the man to be so cold as to ask him to redo the questions again. He had no choice but to put his pen to paper and work on the problem, but the stares from behind were actually stressing him out. Fu Jiu's hands started sweating and shaking slightly because of his nervousness, but he still wanted to overcome the pressure and gradually got better at doing the questions seriously. Obviously, he was still feeling the pressure. Who wouldn't be nervous with a strict teacher at his back? Suddenly, he happily picked up his book and said he had completed all the questions. Shin Mo reached out and took it by touch as he asked Fu Jiu a question. Fu Jiu was dumbfounded, but also cooperated and let him please speak. Shin Mo looked at these questions and got them wrong again and again. You're really unsuitable for physics, Fu Jiu retorted with tears in the corner of his eyes. Don't you think that the subject of physics is particularly anti-human? But at the rate he's learning, he'll still fail in 7 days. Only Fu Jiu's eyes were empty, and suddenly the textbook was slammed hard on the table. He looked up in puzzlement. He had studied so hard that he couldn't even. I can't believe they made him outline all the courses he's recently learned. Fu Jiu suddenly turned into a dead fish eye, indicating that this matter should be called to ask the teacher. Shin Mo became more and more helpless. If I were your physics teacher, I would throw you out right now. That's why the course he's taking is to bet on questions for Fu Jiu. Fu Jiu smiled awkwardly. There really is an essential difference between a school bully and a school slag. So Shin Mo directly picked up his mobile phone and asked Director Wang of Jiangqing No. 1 Middle School High School. Director Wang was surprised that Qin Xiao asked him where the physics of his poor class had gone to, but Director Wang wasn't quite sure. He had to check with the classroom teacher, but Shin Mo was a bit puzzled. I heard that the school doesn't distinguish between men and women in the rows of seats. He put his shoulder against the phone and unscrewed the cap with ease and strength. But Director Wang didn't feel that co-ed desks would tend to create a false sense of affection in poor students. His afterglow looked at Fu Jiu in the room. Wrong feelings such as easy early love. Director Wang nodded affirmatively, and they also made the comment that all co-ed tables don't work. But Director Wang was worthy of being a director. He suddenly thought that there must be someone Qin Xiao knew in the poor class. Shin Mo glanced at him from the rest of his eyes and saw that he was still in his seat, so he planned to remind Director Wang, but before he could say anything, Fu Jiu suspiciously opened the door and inquired what he was doing. Is there a day when the wise and mighty Mr. Qin can't ask for a physics lesson? But he didn't care and reached out his hand with the intention of picking up the water bottle in Shin Mo's hand. He asked Director Wang to send the documents within the email first. Then he reached out and handed Fu Jiu mineral water. Director Wang's back is cold. Does Mr. Qin have relatives in the poor class? How does he not know? Is it because of the girls? Qin Xiao said so that must be his girlfriend's thing. At this point Fu Jiu began to drink mineral water. After all, doing so much homework is very easy to thirst. But this bottle of water Qin Mo also drank. Apparently he didn't mind Fu Jiu's contact. He looked at the paper in front of him. One of these 4 should be on your monthly exams. So he started tapping on the keyboard and surprisingly made the answers to all 4 questions. He thought Fu Jiu should have a good memory and wouldn't just memorize all these answers. At this point, he's stretching tiredly. So we can get out of school, right? He excitedly picked up his textbook and pointed at the questions. And with the addition of the big questions, he could pass if he memorized them completely. Obviously Qin Mo is very dissatisfied. How can he teach out of the students can only pass, or to continue learning? But it was already 10:30, so he had to call Auntie Chang. Tell her to bring a new pair of pajamas to the room. His brother Fu Jiu needs to wear them. Fu Jiu stood in the back of the incomparable consternation. What pajamas? Who want to wear pajamas? He waved his hand to Qin Mo. Were they having communication problems? And told him to hurry up and go home. But it's getting late and Chung is not here. It's not safe for you to go back by yourself. Apparently Fu Jiu didn't care and said it was safe for him to take a taxi home. But this is a high-class villa area, so he can only call his family chauffeur to pick him up. Qin Mo was a little upset. Let you sleep in my place still aggrieved you so reluctantly. Fu Jiu argued that he recognized the bed and couldn't sleep, so what if it affects tomorrow's class? Do you want to go to Auntie Chang's to get your pajamas? Or do you want to keep burying your head in the sand? Fu Jiu was incomparably angry, but Auntie Zhang knocked on the door of the room with her pajamas in hand. Auntie Zhang came in with a shiny nightgown. I didn't expect this to be Qin Mo's clothes from secondary school. I hope Fu Jiu doesn't mind. She looked at Fu Jiu expectantly. It's better to stay, it's not safe to go back now. At this time Qin Mo asked him back. Are you dissatisfied with the clothes that Auntie Zhang prepared? Auntie Zhang is a bit uptight. Does Fu Jiu not live down there? She has prepared a snack. Fu Jiu said of course he wanted to stay. How could he let go of the kanji made by Auntie Zhang's own hands? So Auntie Zhang covered her mouth with laughter and planned to serve it to him right now. At this time, Fu Jiu felt that he was being set up, but it was also his own willingness to do so. He looked across the room at the clean queen-sized bed, and it looked like he would have to sleep here today. After all, it's not like they're sleeping in the same bed. There's nothing to worry about. So he darted out his laptop, intending to get on and put the relaxation game on when he looked somewhat helplessly at the interface. As the computer resounded with the sound of the rising and falling of the countless players reward you with a punch of fun and request to add you as a friend. The other party and it's aggrieved. The idol why not on the game? It is not abducted by the god. Right. Fu Jiu was amused by him and had to hastily hit the keyboard to reply to the message. He stated that it wasn't the Great Spirit who abducted him, but that he managed to live in the Great Spirit's home. But as the opponent's idol, he can't concede defeat in terms of momentum. If I let him sleep in my bed next time, will you still be jumping up and down? Apparently she's a little shy. This is a dirty subject and will be reported. But who is he? Fu Jiu? Of course, not in fear of these small things, so more quickly reply to the message. At this time, a man's voice came from behind him. Fu Jiu instantly stopped passionately typing his hands. He could only wonder why he had entered the room without unlocking the door. So you want to sleep in the same bed with me so badly? The guest room is a waste of time. So he held out his hand grimly. Such misunderstandings are quite uncommon. Fu Jiu was trembling with fear. What exactly is Mo going to do here? I didn't realize it was operating the mouse and deleting his kissing teammate. He said that he would not add people in the game again. After all, Fu Jiu will affect the IQ of others. Qin Mo went so far as to black out all of his teammates after one operation, and to prevent him from going around saying retarded things, use his account before esports new promotions. But it's not good to use his account. They all have different career skills. Obviously Qin Mo has known for a long time. Two hackers still cannot manipulate the skills of the game. At the same time a towel was thrown over him, quizzically indicating what needed to be done. I can't believe I'm asking him to wash his paws. Do I need his help to do it? He rushed to the bathroom and locked the door. This time he'll double and triple check that the door is locked. So he hurriedly took off his clothes, intending to take a nice comfortable bath. But still, he had to let himself off the hook, and he had to find himself a little something to do first. Sure enough, he walked over to the mirror, and he looked so handsome that he had to be threatened. At that moment he suddenly came forward, as if the color of his hair had become a little lighter again. His expression snapped into shock, as if something had suddenly occurred to him. Could it be that the characteristics of his body in his previous life would actually reappear after his rebirth? Before he could finish his thoughts, there was a light knock at the door. It turns out Qin Mo wanted to make it clear that he could use the game currency on his account as he pleased. But there's one thing he has to do, and that's not to add anyone. A hand appeared instantly inside the door, eagerly trying to pull it open to reply to his, only to see Fu Jiu eyes brightly looking at him, indicating that the use of the number of integrity themselves or have a. Apparently, Qin Mo did not reply to him, but just looked at him for a moment and froze a bit. Fu Jiu brightly raised his head to meet his eyes filled with doubt and confusion. I didn't expect Qin Mo to be a little angry, reaching out his hand to instantly shut the bathroom door behind him, and in an unpleasant tone, remind Fu Jiu to take your bath properly. So he left in a huff, leaving Fu Jiu in the bathroom alone and puzzled. By this time the bathtub water had been drained and he had to stop thinking about his intention to take off his clothes. But his wrap can't get wet. After all, he'll need it to protect his identity later. He was about to step into the bathtub when another voice sounded outside the door. Fu Jiu instantly exploded open. How he came again can be in case of being recognized to do. Qin Mo stood calmly at the door and told him to hurry up and open the door to get him something. I didn't realize it was a necessity. Shower gel for the bath. But Fu Jiu had already finished undressing, so he thought it would be better to wait until he had finished his bath. But there's no shower gel in the guest room, so how is he going to wash himself? Or open the door and take it in? Fu Jiu thought it made sense, so he quietly opened the doorway. Qin Mo is still knocking on the door outside the room. He can't figure out why Fu Jiu is so inky. At this time, the door of the room suddenly opened. Fu Jiu revealed his head and reached out for the shower gel. Obviously, his eyes shifted to the bottom. Fu Jiu's skin was surprisingly white and tender. There was a slight dismay in his features, but his eyes did not move away from but he seemed to be so shocked that he didn't react at all to the sound, but still stretched out the hand holding the shower gel and quickly handed it to Fu Jiu's hand, only to see that when he came into contact with Fu Jiu's hand, he simultaneously stepped back accordingly. Fu Jiu looked like she had discovered something, her big clear eyes innocently looking at him. He suddenly hooked a bad smile, accompanied by a cold grunt, suddenly flinging up the shower gel with pleasure, pouting her lips and inquiring if he looked good. Boss Qin. Qin Mo's eyes were immediately shocked and cold sweat broke out on his gloomy face, so he fought to close the door to his room, and the luxurious villa seemed to be shaken. I didn't realize that the people inside could barely hold on. After all, the door would have been exposed if it had been pulled open just a little bit. He ran forward on tiptoe upside down and couldn't wait to get into the bathtub. When he had washed away his fatigue, he suddenly realized how tired he had been these past few days, and I don't know what God Qin will do to him when he gets out. Even if he could get back into the wrap, would the pajamas cover him up? Obviously, he'll think hard about counting it as a loss. After all, the ship will come to an end, so he happily soaked in the bathroom with a burst of song coming out of him. Qin Mo is using the computer to organize an internal meeting with the company members, but after the man published his feelings, he found that Mr. Qin did not reply to him. They all look at each other but can't do anything about it. Why is Mr. Qin so distracted? He instantly came back to his senses and began to explain that since he was looking for new players, he would let them compete again. The secretary was shocked and shouted, "Do we really have to give up the previous internal candidate?" Only the other members were also puzzled, but did not seek an explanation from Qin Mo. But the secretary simply couldn't help it. This internal proposal was originally proposed by Qin. Apparently Qin Mo didn't care and was incredibly calm as he reminded the crowd that it was the previous Qin. Sure enough, the man's face changed at the drop of a hat. After all, it wasn't the Qin's after he took over. Talent is never something that can be directly filtered out by internal selection. I'm sure you've heard it before, Robert. All the best are in the people. The yellow-haired man expressed his understanding that Qin's strongest weapon was indeed himself. Qin Mo confidently shook his wine glass and thanked him with a bland expression. The yellow-haired man kept praising with satisfaction. "Qin, I just love your character. Is it true that you've been playing online games lately and going to any live streams? Our side of the battlefield is concerned about who is capable of that." But Qin Mo had a straight face. After all, it wasn't a matter of being able to do it. It was his younger brother. The man was also a little puzzled as to who the person he called his brother really was, but they said it wasn't their own brother, and they explained it in a spoiled tone. Qin Mo suddenly planned to stop chatting. He was going to see what was taking that guy so long in the shower. The secretary looked at the screen in confusion. The president said he wanted to see the guy take a shower. Thinking about it broke him beyond belief, and the screen of his laptop was almost crushed by him. In his imagination, Fu Jiu with a brush was asking the president for help, and after a bath, you have to pat the bed and invite the president to sleep with you. Fu Jiu then lifted the president's chin, and the two of them suddenly became intimate. But Secretary Liang is a professional secretary. She can't speculate on her boss's private life. Should we call the madam and tell her that the young master has been broken by a man? And so a world in which only the secretary is injured is reached. At that moment, a man came from Feng's house and opened the door of Feng Shang's room sleepily. His sleepiness sobered, not realizing that his brother was so disheveled. So he hurriedly opened his mobile phone to transfer money. Could it be that the game had run out of money again? But this was Feng Shang's little secret, so obviously he couldn't tell his brother that he was going to take the test. But my brother said that there was a change in the company and cancelled the entry of the insiders into the team. He'd also have to reprogram them into the up-and-coming schedule. The whole scheme would have to be changed. Qin made such a decision, left and right. He was taking the heat for Fu Jiu. Is the god really abducting the idol? And he thinks he'll be able to bag it himself. However, Fu Jiu was unaware of the situation on the other side and walked out of the bathroom with a contented look on his face. Suddenly he opened his eyes and looked up at Qin Mo across the room. I didn't think that Qin Mo would look so upset, but he didn't do anything too much, only to see Qin Mo opening his mouth to order him to hurry and do it aside. Fu Jiu was puzzled but obediently sat down. Only his eyes were slightly innocent. At that moment a large hand reached out and gently picked up his towel. He gently stood behind Fu Jiu and wiped his wet hair for him. It just so happened that he also felt inconvenient to rub himself. so as not to reveal his footsteps in front of Qin Mo in a while. Qin Mo didn't say anything, only the wiping action became more and more gentle. Auntie Zhang, however, looked like she had been knocked over and held up the kanji in her hand to show that it was ready. Qin Mo then looked up, but looked at Auntie Zhang's happy face. So he patted Fu Jiu's head and went to eat Auntie Zhang's midnight snack made especially for you. However, Fu Jiu was a little disgruntled, but his eyes lit up when he saw the porridge. He was contentedly eating his midnight snack when he realized that Qin Mo had actually started to work again. He also couldn't wait to log into the game, saying that he was relieved to have the number in his hands. Fu Jiu happily opened the game, quickly let him see how many gold coins in the account of the great god.